Good morning, girls.
Good
Good
morning.
morning. Good morning. Ah, man. I've been
Billy,
up for freaking 4 hours, I think.
4 hours. What have you been doing for 4 hours?
Uh, I woke up at 2, right? And then
Okay.
I went back to sleep around, I don't even know, 4, 5. And then I woke up at 6:30. And then I was laying on the couch and I was just like, I should go for a run. But then I really thought about how I would feel because I didn't sleep well and I didn't hydrate well because I wasn't planning to run this in the morning today.
Hmm.
But then I was laying there and I said, you know what, fuck it, I have time. Before I meet you ladies, I'm gonna just go out there and just get some miles in.
Okay.
So that is what I did today, and it was good. It was a little bit too hot for me because I don't like being out there in the sun. I prefer to run at nighttime. But
Hmm.
right now it's like I can run whenever I have the chance to run. So
Hmm.
I got some miles in this morning.
Good.
That's a great way to start your day.
It is. It is. I think. I mean, I feel great. I feel great. I got it done.
Okay.
And we're here. We're here. I have my chai. What was it? What's in here? Chai, matcha, my drink.
Cocoa powder, you said?
Yeah,
Powder
I
but
know.
this is your mix, right?
Yeah, I just added whatever was in there. But I actually do like the chai and the matcha. I had that
Okay.
yesterday. And maybe that's what kept me up last night. But anyway, we got the run in. Good morning. I'm here. Got the miles in.
Uh-huh.
Starting the day off right. Happy weekend. Happy weekend.
Yes, yes. So what's going on? How are we doing? What are we going to talk about, ladies? Let me know. What's new? What's crazy?
Everything. New
Yeah.
York. Oh my God. Have you heard all this craziness that's
I
happening?
was away for a week, so I kind of completely disconnected and I don't really watch or read the news. And I try not to because it causes me so much depression.
Well,
So,
alone with just listening to Billy say I ran this morning. I mean, kudos to you. How do you feel running early in the morning or even at night? Because you prefer doing it at night.
yeah.
I do. I do. So usually like during the week, I have a community run with my running group. So
Hmm.
then you feel safe because you're in a group, but still, some
Okay.
cars they can run you over. They don't give a shit. But then when I'm alone, yeah, like yesterday I ran at night, and am I scared? Yes. Have I always felt scared? I mean, I used to carry my pepper spray with me, like when I first
Mhm.
started running by myself at night. But then I chose a different route. So I feel more comfortable on a specific route, which helps me like enjoy my run instead of like being on the lookout, for some crazy person.
Mhm.
Because we hear on the news right now that there's like a strange, I don't know if it's just one man or different men that are just punching women in
Punching
the face
women,
or on
yes.
their
Yeah.
back. Like I can't run and like look
Get
around.
sucker punched. Yeah.
Like I
Apparently
can't.
he's sucker punching all these women
That's
and
what we
at
did.
random. I did hear that they caught someone, but I wasn't sure if that was that one guy or is there multiple guys doing that. But do you even listen to music? Like,
I
I mean,
do. Like, and
okay.
then on the way back, I was like, Billy, you need to go fast. So I blast my music. I love dancing. You guys know that. I think we
Mhm.
all three of us
Mhm.
love dancing. So for me, when I can dance for hours on end in heels, like
Mhm.
so to me, my mentality is like, if I could dance for X number of hours in heels, I could fucking walk. So I mean, I could run. So yeah, I blast my music and I go. But it is like yesterday I almost got hit by a car. Like some dude that didn't even stop at the stop like sign. And, let alone count to like stop in Mississippi. The only time that I drive, I stop at the stop. I'm like, one Mississippi, two
That's too
Mississippi.
long.
Look,
Yeah, that's
that
a
is what I
lot.
learned, and that is what I'm going by. But yo, that nigga,
'Cause you
sorry,
look both
that guy, I
ways,
was just
right?
so
Yeah.
upset. Like that guy just like didn't stop. Like, and then I'm just like waving my arms in the air, and he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry." And then I kept running, and I see him coming out of one of those like weed shops, and I'm like, "Really? You almost ran me over for some fucking weed?" Like, I was really upset. But that is what happens. Like, it's not just like I'm scared of people who are gonna punch me. It's just like random people who are like careless, you know. But do I want to stop doing what I'm doing because of fear? Like, I was in Union Square yesterday. I was at Trader Joe's. I was so happy, but apparently this person that was happening in like that area,
Mhm.
and like,
Yeah.
should we stop living our lives? It's so unfair. It really is. I don't
So
know.
So
is
this
this anything, everything, and all things craziness in New York? I
Yeah.
mean, I was also in the city yesterday, and I happened to go from like 26 on Second Avenue and walked all the way to 34th Street. I was like, oh, I haven't been to Macy's in such a long time. I don't go to like at least 34th Street shopping or none of that stuff anymore. It's been years. So I walked through. It was desolated. It was dead. I mean, there was no people outside on a Friday night, which is astonishing for it to be New York. Everything is open. I ended up going into Macy's and there were like some, I don't know if they were homeless
Mm.
or I have no idea if they were like just looking for shelter, but they were like all in the section on the ninth floor where they have furniture and people were just sitting there on the floors charging.
Inside?
Yes, it was crazy. And I was like,
what?
and they were already like literally announcing, you have like 20 minutes, Macy's is closing. And they were just there sitting like nothing.
I
It
haven't
was
been to Macy's in years, but when was the last time I walked by there? Well, I work by 42nd Street and I literally do not go past like a 5 block radius of my job just
Mhm.
because there's, after COVID, the increase of homelessness, um, how do I say this? So like, not to say that there weren't as many homeless people. I feel like there probably wasn't a bigger increase due to the fact that people lost their homes, so on and so forth. But I feel like it was like the homeless people were like taking over more areas that were always busy because now they're not busy, and that's understandable. But the level of violence and just how things, I feel like we've been back like 20 years. Like
Yeah.
42nd Street and all that is gone back 20 years.
Mhm.
Um it is just one of these scary things where you have to be on guard. New York is one of those cities where anything and everything can kind of freaking happen. It's why I moved out of the city. I lived in the Bronx. And when we saw people starting to tag up there was a new gang that had come in and we were seeing the tags and I'm like, wait, what is this? And I looked it up and it was a gang. And Jay and I were like, oh no, we have 3 growing teenagers who are about to start commuting a whole lot more by themselves. They already commuted by themselves, but they were going to start commuting at odd hours, going into high school and stuff like that. And we were like, nope, we got to get out of here. We got to get out of here because this is too much. They're approaching little girls, they're approaching kids. It's just, I don't think anywhere is safe. I know I told my therapist this right now. I feel like the world is on fire, but I feel like the world has been on fire for a very long time. It's just that we're all seeing it now. And
Mhm.
mostly, it's a lot of shit that's kind of percolating after COVID. I think a lot of it has to do with that. The world stopped, and I think bad habits developed, crazy stuff have happened since, and this is only probably the iceberg of it, which is unfortunate that you can't, you shouldn't feel like you need to stop living your life, because even going to the movie theaters is dangerous. Even going to the store is dangerous nowadays. You have to now just unfortunately be on guard. So it's not you should need to stop living your life. It's just you need to carry your pepper spray with you because you never know who's going to be there and who's not going to be there. Or how's it going to go? Is it an animal that's going to attack you? Because, we have big ass rats in New York City. Uh, or is it a human animal that just has no fucking self control? Because mental health is not a well paid service. And those are the people who fall through the cracks, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, Nathy, I know, rarely takes the train, like, or public transportation, period. Betsy, you do.
5 years. I'm
Yeah.
not breaking my streak. I'm staying 5 years not taking the train, and I drive everywhere, and I drive. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm out of New York, so I drive into New York. But you
I,
girls, I think you
I take
guys
the
take the train. Yeah.
every single
I
day.
take the Metro
So,
North, which is slightly different than the subway, but I do take the subway from time to time. When was the last time I was in the subway? I went somewhere. I think I went to Brooklyn. why was I going to Brooklyn on the train? I think I was meeting somebody or Jason, but I try not to get on the subway. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. And if it's a bus, even worse. But no, I don't think I've been on a bus in a couple years. I hate the bus. I've never liked the bus. I feel like it's too much of a confined space that if shit were to pop off, you can't really do much. But on the subway, at least you could go to the next cart, you could get off the next stop, and so on and so forth. But yeah, I don't remember why I was on the subway the last time I was.
Billy,
But I
how does
was.
it feel to be on the subway? Because you take the train everywhere.
I take the train. I take the bus. I take Ubers. What else do I take? I've been on the ferry a few times. um,
Do you still take
it's
the bike,
bad.
Billy? Because you used to
No,
bike ride places.
yeah, I love to bike. But no, I need a better bike. I would not mind. But also that, like, I have friends who bike and super careless drivers. I am
Mm-hmm.
like, I love my life. I'm not trying to die that way.
My
But I do take the train all the time, and it's bad. Like, I work in Far Rockaway, so I take the L train to the A. Or sometimes I go into the city on the L train, or I'm just any train or bus, and it's bad out there. It's a lot of homeless people, just they're in the train, just sleeping on the train. Sometimes they're pissing, just laying there, and it's it's one, it's just not sanitary, and then
Mhm.
two, sometimes they like are causing arguments or with like other people, and it's just
Mhm.
like, what if they get in your face? Yesterday I was on the train. I don't know why it came to my mind, and I was like, what if somebody attacks me, right? I will do my best to, like, I always said, if somebody attacks me, I don't care if I gotta rip your cheek off with my teeth. Like, I'm gonna fight tooth and nail, like, to save my life. But then I'm thinking, like, what about if I end up killing someone? Like, am I gonna get in trouble? Is it like self-defense? Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Because then it's like, and then I was like, well, if, say something happens to me, right? The world will be like, oh my God, look at this poor girl, well, whatever, poor woman. But then what if I end up killing him? Now I'm going to jail, right? So I don't know. This thought just came to my mind because it's like, how can you be, especially for me as a female? I'm a small girl, you know? And then there's all these things that you're hearing in the news, and I have to take the train. So,
Yeah.
and it's not just anymore. Like, I think I read a story about somebody got pushed on like on the tracks and they died.
Well,
Like,
something happened near your job a couple of days ago, right? Yeah.
Monday, I was there. I was literally there an hour before the shooting happened. And, condolences to the family, like, of the officer. It's so tragic. He left behind, little 1-year-old baby. And it's just crazy. Like, you take on this role, and you grow up wanting to be a police officer, right? To save the world. And then this happens, and it's sad. And I was there. I was there in that area an hour before it happened because I work in Far Rockaway. So, and sometimes you're just in the wrong place at the wrong time too, like as a
Mhm.
pedestrian, as like just someone that's just walking, in the community or working in the community. So it's just, yeah, it's
Do you
scary, but I
do you
can't
girls
impart, like,
do
because I
you
take the
girls
train.
think that it's worse than ever? Like when we were growing up, is it worse? Is
I
it the
think it's back to what
same?
it was. I think it's back to what it was. I feel like we've gone back into the 90s where before Bloomberg started to like clean up, like, be more eco-friendly, though he had
Mhm.
a lot of issues with arresting people. Um, but I feel like this mayor is just making shit even worse. The last mayor didn't do that great. I think it started with the last two mayors that we've had, where on top of having COVID around and stuff like that, I think we have gone back on the level of crime, homelessness. I feel like it's back to what I would hear in the news when I was a kid. That's kind of where I see it at. Even certain streets, like the fact that we're having as many police guards, that we had to launch the National Guard to do backpack checks to check on weapons. And then what did that do? What good has it done? We won't change
It's just a
our
waste of money. I'm sorry.
it
Like,
is.
like
You
put that
get
money
every idiot
towards
to
other
work.
things.
Yeah.
like mental health centers or to prevent homelessness,
Exactly.
you know?
We're putting all this money into force and following the rules, but you're not putting it into where it needs to be. Well, are we dealing with our homeless problem? Are we dealing with our mental health problems, like you said, Billy? Are we dealing with our school problems? How many schools? We just defunded so many programs in school and required that students, that their parents help the students out because you can't fund this, but yet you funded however many billions of dollars towards gun control, towards police training. And listen, nothing against the police. I feel like the police need to do what they need to do. However, there should be levels to, if it's a mental health crisis, someone with a gun shouldn't be the first person that shows up. There should be a mental health counselor that comes in and helps the person that wasn't trained to deal with mental health issues. There's different levels. Like, you don't send, I don't know, you don't send a butcher who deals with meat to go do a baker's job. Two different jobs. And I'm using food because food is so different. It's two different things. A baker isn't a person who does the butcher's job, or a person who is going to go, or a marketing person doesn't come and do what a billing person does. There's two very different jobs. You can't expect them to have the similar outcome. Yes, there's humans, but you're gonna, your approach is different. And I know my examples are kind of out there, but that's the whole point of it. Why are we providing services to people? Why aren't we providing services to people who need it? Why are we putting money instead of into checking backpacks? Well, what are we doing to control crime in the like gun control? What are we doing for that? Why aren't we teaching our kids and creating more after school programs so that people can have activities to do, and they're not hanging out outside in the street where they potentially can get mixed up into things?
Well,
Kids get.
two things to piggyback what you're saying, Betsy. I feel like the mayor is putting all these cops or whoever that he's sending in places where tourists are at as well.
Mm-hmm.
What about Far Rockaway? What about the Bronx? Places where crime happens and there's no tourists. Harlem. He doesn't send all those troops out there. He's only sending them at 42nd Street, Grand Central, where they, I think it's Union Square. I think there's some people there as well.
Mm-hmm.
And in terms of like the children, because, I'm in the school, there's no consequences for these kids anymore.
Yep.
So you're teaching these kids now that they're going into the world as adults and they could do whatever they want. As an adult, I'm pretty sure if I do something wrong now, there's a consequence for that. But they're not
Mm-hmm.
teaching these kids that because you do something, there's a consequence. No, they let it slide, and parents don't do anything, and we're not allowed to do anything. So it's like, okay, so we're these kids are growing in this city or this place where they're allowed to do whatever they want, and who is to
Yep.
stop them?
Not even like, I worked at Rite Aid, but and not just at Rite Aid, at other different stores. Like, people are allowed to steal. Like,
Yeah, you
I
see,
literally, I
no
literally just
consequences.
like you could walk into the store right now, Nathy and Betsy. You can walk into the store, just put shit in your bag, and all I can do is talk to you into, you know, making a better decision and putting the shit back. Like, that's all I can do. Because God forbid I touch you, I will get fired. I will get fired. But you can come in and steal everything. Like people would literally, like, the deodorant section, just put their hand and just like everything in a bag, like straight into their bag, and just walk out of the store. Nobody can say anything. And then you call the cops and they come. But what are they gonna do? Like, they take somebody and then the person comes back the next day, and it's just like, well, where again, no consequences, and that's
Mm-hmm.
the problem. There are absolutely no consequences, and it just blows my mind.
We live in an
Blows my
ass
mind.
backwards system. I'm sorry. We live in an ass back. We provide consequences for some things, and for some things we don't
Mm-hmm.
have
Yes,
consequences.
I agree.
It's all about how are we making money and who are we using money for. And I know you said that there's no cops in certain areas, so they're not sending large amounts of cops as they're there to the tourist areas, but they are. Like in the projects, they do patrol that. But there's a person that patrols the neighborhoods, the neighborhoods that have high crime rate, and they're doing that in a way that sometimes it's just they're being too aggressive to some of these kids. We, for a very long time, we had the stop and frisk thing. And that's starting to come back up again. And you stop and frisk a kid for what reason? Because they look suspicious. And if you use these suspicious things, here's my thing. Consequences are necessary within reason. And the problem with this world is that everybody thinks that it has to be black or white, and then they create where the gray area is. New York City has created a pipeline system into the jail system. Black and brown kids, poor kids in neighborhoods are the ones that are going to end up in jail. Even if you look at our school system, how it's set up, the way our lunchrooms are set up, the way the school buses are set up, the same school bus that takes you to school is the same bus in a different color that takes you to jail. The same setup, the same tray that you eat your food with is the same tray that you eat in jail. It's all the same. It's creating a mentality that this is where you are. Then we have that everything is electronic. None of these kids can explore the world. We don't let them go outside. They spend huge amounts of hours on devices in school, outside of school. What is this world coming to where kids can't even play? They can't, because it's too dangerous. No one can go to the parks. Oh, that's the other thing. Parks and recreation. Their budget was cut. So our parks were being cleaned on a regular basis. And guess what? Our lovely mayor just said, no, they don't need to be cleaned every week. So if you don't clean up the garbage, if there isn't anyone cleaning up the garbage, that's going to increase and make parks look worse. People don't care about their environment. It's going back to the 80s was it the 80s when in East Harlem they stopped picking up garbage and the people got fed up with it. You tell people that you live in a shit world, they will believe the world is shit. And that is what's happening. They want us to believe that we live in shitty situations, and they want us to do the cleanup while they put the money in everything else. We'll fund wars. That we can do. Wars where people are being fucking genocide is happening. We'll fund cops to have these huge fucking guns to go into small neighborhoods to raid a guy who just has a bunch of weed. That's bullshit. I like this. I can go on forever. But we won't fund schools. We won't fund after school programs. We won't fund. Summer camp is one of the most fucking expensive things. What are they doing all summer if a parent can't afford $3,000? Like, I was blessed for a couple years that I would get into the lottery for the New York Parks and Recreation. So if I didn't get that, which $500 back then, I don't know how much it is now. If I didn't get into the lot, my kids had nothing to do because I couldn't afford $2,000 to $3,000 per week or every 2 weeks, I think it was.
The Summer Rising program is also a lottery for the DOE.
So it's
the lottery.
It's one of those things. So what do you expect people to do? What's going to happen? We are not
I'm not having children.
Amen to that, sister.
This world is shit. And it's I don't think it's getting better. And I don't know if it's because, now we have like Citizens app, right? Everybody's like on Citizens app. So now like right away, before we didn't have access to technology or like to, web. And so
I don't have that app.
Sometimes you didn't. Yeah, no, I used to have it. And then every like seconds it was just something was coming up. And I was like, I just can't live that way because you're just nervous. Like something happened over here. So like now I have to stay in my house, and it's just like you just can't live that way. So I pray. I rock around with can you see her?
Oh, yes. Your version.
Yeah, that's it. And my mama prays for me. Thank God for my mama's prayers because this world is shit, and you just got to be aware. Just like when you go to another country, you have to just be aware,
of your surroundings. Yeah.
Yeah. And
well, it's interesting you say that. So I was having a conversation with this girl at AT&T, and she was like, yeah, I went to London by myself. And, though I was scared because I'm traveling alone, she's like, I just didn't make stupid decisions. I didn't walk through dark alleyways or alleyways that were empty. I didn't go out late at night by myself because I am by myself. And I just made sure my friends knew where I was when I was going to go out. And I stood in, public areas so that if something, I'm not putting myself in actual extra danger.
Yeah.
Now, that's not, I don't know why I just got tongue twisted. That's not to say that shit doesn't happen even in public areas, but you reduce the possibility of something crazy happening because those crime people are trying, like they're hiding, they're this, they're that. These psychopaths are walking down the street in Union Square. I don't know. Like, it's a scary world. You just have to pray that you are making the right choices, kind of be on attentiveness. And It's also one of these things, and I hate to be like sound like a conspiracy theorist, but I find it interesting that we have um been infiltrated with so much information about the crazy shit that's happening. And to me, it's more like, is the government just trying to show us all the crazy shit that's happening so we don't pay attention to what the government is doing, like laws that are being placed, rules that are being placed, so that we're so consumed with this, we're not paying attention to the fact that elections coming up, that these bills are being waited on, or that you should be calling and making these changes to the government, and paying attention to that, because you're so consumed with all this other craziness and survival that you can't even pay attention to the changes that are happening in the government. We can't even pay attention to the food that's being like how our food is being changed. And that to me is insane. So that's why I don't really watch the news. If it's very important, I will find out. Unfortunately, if I find out last and I find out last, I just can't mentally take in all the crazy. I can't. It's hard.
Yeah, I don't watch the news. To me, like I find things out on social media, and then it's like, oh, and then I'll Google it if I like want to know more about it. But it's a lot going on, and I don't think it's just here. I mean, I think it's
No.
just everywhere in the
Yeah.
world, right? Um,
It's why you see that there's this big trend of people saying, how many times a day do you think about telling the world, fuck it, living on a farm and calling it a day? I can see it. It's people wanting to get out the city. It's people saying, I just can't, it's too much. People are moving out of the city during COVID and right after. Mind you, I don't really live far
Waves,
from the
huge
city.
waves. Yeah.
You're in real estate, Nathy.
Yeah.
You would know the amounts of lines that were created just to get out, just to rent a house at $4,000, which I think that's pretty much average rate right now in the city for a 2-bedroom, if that. People are leaving the city because it's too much. They rather be a little more further out, have a little more privacy and calmness. I get it.
I
I
don't
don't know,
know.
Nathy.
I
You
would
can
not
speak on
move.
it as real estate.
Like
I I
mine is
remember when. Go
go
ahead,
ahead, Nat.
Billy.
No, because mine is the opposite of like, no.
Well, yeah, because you're in the city, but I'm outside. But Betsy, you're also outside. But when COVID happened and we started slowly going back to work, all the cars crossing into New York had New York plates. Everyone was moving out here, and obviously, a lot of clients were coming from New York. And still, I still have clients. Just recently, I have a client that's coming from New York, moving out here to Jersey because of wanting the space, wanting the privacy, everything that's happening, the crime, the homelessness, the migrants that are coming in because apparently they can't find jobs for them. I mean, they're giving them money for free. Well,
Oh my God, that's another
that
thing.
I'm like, why don't you just put them to clean the parks or the subways? Go clean the parks. Go pick up all the shit that's everywhere. Put them
Because
to use.
they can give them money, but they can't give them work because they would need papers to be able to work. So it's an ass
But
backwards system.
but they
It's
also want to give them papers at some point, and I'm like, are you serious?
well, you also got to think about they also can't not eat, so they need some way to survive. But you would think it's like, okay, I'll give you work to do this
Exactly.
in this way, but they can't technically give them work because then they become.
Dumbass
Uh,
shit ever.
but that's our
It's
system.
it's and it's like, who helps our country? We're
Yeah,
helping other
nobody.
people. Who
Nobody
wants
comes
to
to
help us?
us.
Because clearly we need help. Clearly we need help, but no one's helping us.
Oh, we're
And
busy. We're
you know,
busy getting ourselves in other people's business as usual.
and more
That's what
shit.
we're doing.
Yeah.
We're
But
busy getting in
for
other
us,
people's business and providing aid to countries that are literally bombing and have killed so many children. Oh, come on. That's what we're doing. We won't invest in our own country. We won't invest in our own people, but we will invest in everyone else. And that's why, as a community, it's hard because I think we've become the sense of community has been lost, especially in the last couple years within people. But community is what we need. And we need to unify as a community to say, what do we want to change? You know? How do we want to change and start doing that in our own worlds? And we have the power. But if you think about it, if we're continuously being fed all this negativity, all this separation, that's how they control. We're complaining, but what are we doing about it
Not having
to
kids.
keep our community?
Yeah, not providing more problems. That's what
Right.
they're saying.
That's not going to change the world, but it's changing my world. And so I feel better about like
Not
getting up
contributing
in
to
the
that.
morning. Huh?
Yeah, not contributing to
Getting
that.
up in the
The
morning. I mean,
problem.
yeah.
Yeah.
I know I cannot afford a child. I am not trying to put that on the government. I am not trying to force myself. Yeah, no.
Well, that's the mentality. It's like, well, this world is going to shit, and I don't have any money, so what should I do? Maybe I should
Nah.
have another kid. That's the
Yeah.
mentality.
Not over
Oh,
here, girl. Not over here. I am like,
I don't think
no.
children should listen. I think, well, birth rates are low. That's one thing that has come out. More and more people are not having children.
But
Um,
which people?
you know
Mm-hmm.
what? I don't know the statistics on that.
Yeah, we gotta
Yeah, yeah,
investigate
yeah.
that
But
because
that's not to say that even these second generation kids are not doing it. So here's my thing with when depending on who's popping these kids out. I have my own theory as to you create a system. If you create a system that I'm constantly handing out to you because you're poor, then and if you are okay with your circumstances and you think, well, this is the way I'm supposed to live, then you'll continue to do that. If you continue to shell out all the services, but you're not providing schooling, you're not providing or good schooling. Let me not even just talk about schooling because some kids have schools. Not good schooling, good education. And I don't mean just education books. I mean education's about life, about health. And if you're not providing services where these people can kind of put their kids in a daycare and go to work or and say, hey, you get these services because you have to have a job, you need to do this, and you only get it for a certain amount of time while you develop yourself, it's good. However, here's the fucked up system. You get to a point where you're in the poor side. And I said this to my daughter's financial aid officer. I used to get services because I was really poor. And now I'm a middle income person, but I'm middle income poor. And I don't get shit. So to me, it's like, well, should I just go back to what I was where I wasn't making, pretending to not make, or either not make enough or pretend to not make enough so that I can get services, because you won't help a person in the middle. So the rich get richer and the poorer get poorer, but they get all these services. And the person in the middle is fucking ending up to shell out everything and suffer and kind of fight tooth and nail to get out of the system. I'm a person that I got help. I had WIC and I never got government cash, but I did get food stamps. And I used that until I made enough money and I got off those services because it's expensive. I was a teen mom. I had no help. I had no services. I had family, but no one helped me financially. I dug myself out of having a kid early. A couple years later, I had another one. You can get yourself out of the system. But if you're not taught about health, if you're not provided with health services, it's hard for kids to get sex ed. Half the schools don't give it. If you don't provide even sex ed or sex ed services, we were lucky that we would have our community, but some of these kids don't. Sex is made as this is
We
cool,
had
and that's
sex ed, right? In
yes,
high
we did.
school?
pet health.
Yes,
We
Yeah.
did, right?
we had
Yeah.
health,
Yeah.
and we had a nurse in our building that provided
Mm-hmm.
birth control, all that stuff. And then there were a lot of what's it called, youth clinics. I don't know if they're still around because I'm not in the youth area anymore. Um, but those types of services are necessary for these kids to not continue to pop out these babies.
But
They're expensive.
it's not just the need for those services. I think it's also like, unfortunately, some families are okay with continuing to be in the system. Like, I
Yes.
tell my niece and my nephews, like, I mean, if they want to have kids, by all means, that's their choice. But would I prefer for them not to have kids? 1,000%, I would prefer for them not to have kids.
Yeah.
Because again, this world is shit. But it's me instilling in them like that. It's not easy. You should first have your career and be established. Be at least financially stable. And then if you decide you want to have kids, then by all means, if that's what
Yeah.
you want to do. But there's some families where it's like, well, it's okay to continue to be in the system, and it's okay to continue to not work and allow the government to kind of control your life because now you're waiting on this check every month, and
Yeah.
it's okay to not strive for better because you're still going to get money and you're still going to be able to, like, I used to work at Rite Aid, and some ladies would come in there that were in like getting money from the government with their nails done and their like Chanel bag, and I'm over here like my nails are freaking crusty, but I'm like trying. I wasn't in the system, but I'm not trying to be in the system. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I know that in order to have something, you have to save, you have to work, and you have to save, and you have to work, and you have to invest. So it's like I'm making smarter decisions with the money that I have, but
Mm-hmm.
some people aren't taught that, or some people just don't. And it's not everybody. Don't get me wrong. Like, I also knew some family members who were like, no, like, that's what my mother did, but that's not what I want to do. Like, I want better.
Mm-hmm.
I want to do more for myself. And it's just like, that's great because, you know, these services are there to help, like, not long term, like a short term help, And I have some clients, they have daycare, like, they have vouchers for daycare so that way they can either go for like look for a job or they can go to school. So the help is out there, and yeah, it's not going to happen quick. And you have to advocate for yourself. Like, you can't
Mm-hmm.
just go to the office and expect them to like give you the check or the money or the voucher right away. It doesn't happen that way. But if you're not putting the time and the effort to find these places and to fill out the forms and to follow up, it's not going to happen. So I don't know. I just think we need to put a little bit more effort in teaching the future. So I'm happy I work at a school because I'm always talking to my kids about like what they want to be in their future, what do they want to do. Like, some of these kids are like, "What do you mean?" I'm just like, "What do you mean you don't know? Like, or you haven't thought about what you want to do in your life?" And they're like, "No, I haven't thought about it." And I'm like, "Well, let's think about it now because you can. Like, you can have a future. You can strive for what you want."
You
It's
also got to
sad.
think about it. If somebody's family has never done it, how can we expect a kid to want something they have never seen within their world if they only
But
see it on TV?
none of my family went to college. I
No,
was
I'm
the
not
first one.
it's I'm not saying that it happens to every kid, but there is a good percentage of people who haven't seen it. And if they want it or think about it, their family can shame them into not wanting them and tell them, "Oh, you what do you think you're white? You think you're going to be this? You
Oh
think you're
yeah,
that?"
I
I
agree.
have personally seen that. I have personally seen that in family. I have seen that with people in my neighborhood where I used to live, where I had a kid who one time said to me, "Oh, what are you? Are you white?" And I was like, I look at my skin and I'm like, no. And she's like, so what are you? I'm like, I'm Puerto Rican. And she's like, oh, you went and got, and I was like, yeah, I went to school. I did these things. And she's like, and your family didn't judge you? And I was like, well, some people kind of did, made comments, but no. And she's like, yeah, my family would, you know, treat me bad if because I had said that I wanted to go to school and they were like, "Oh, you think you're better than everyone." And that does happen
Mm-hmm.
where sometimes you get to a certain level and somebody just doesn't want to be disowned by their own family. Or their friends would be like, "Oh, you think you're better than me because you're doing this?" So people actually stop. I actually had a friend who wanted to go into fashion, guy. He's a straight guy. He wanted to go into fashion. He wanted to design clothes for men and women. And he was told that he would be gay if he did that because he had that interest. He never pursued his passion. Why? Because he was judged and told that you can't do this because in your neighborhood you have to fit in or in your family you have to fit in. So it's a societal thing, it's a governmental thing, and it's our families who sometimes keep us pigeonholed in this. Well, like I know somebody who's like, "Oh, I purposely work off the books and I can make more so that I can be on food stamps because groceries are so expensive." Or,
Mm-hmm.
I told my daughter to stay on these services. So I can't, it's kind of like an inheritance. I taught you, I had you under me. Now you do it and you're living off of the government. You never have to work. And I'm just like, how? How is that okay? But yet you're crying that you have no money and you've never gone anywhere. You can't. expect to see the world, to do things, be part of certain things, and do it off of everyone else's back. I am a strong believer that help is good, but it has to be put in within rules and regulations. I remember when I was in services, it was like, well, if you don't have a job, then you have to attend these courses. And I was like, well, I have a part-time job. They're like, okay, great. So you'll get services for this because you're working during these hours. Perfect. If you go to school, you get services. Great. I got my job. Now, applying for these services is a whole nother fucking job because you spend their hours. That shit is not easy.
And don't you
You
have to
have
like, report yourself certain amount of times? But you
yes,
have to also know how to play the game
exactly.
and
But you're not
play
even
the system
ex-
because there's ways around it. And
hell yeah.
perfect example here. Anybody wants tips, just hit me up. I can't say them out here though. I can get in trouble. But there's ways around it.
Yeah.
Tons of ways to beat the system, to be in the system and get more, I guess, help or ways just around to be able to go to college and or your kids go to college and beat the system.
Yeah. Well,
So
Billy, I mean, Nathy, you've never told me the tricks. I'm trying to get my kids through college. We're gonna have to talk after this.
yes, yeah, hit me up.
I have student loans. Help me pay off my student loans without having to be on OnlyFans.
Don't you work for
I
the
mean,
DOE
That
now?
is the trick.
Loan
yeah, but you
forgiveness.
haven't you been working on and off for the DOE after a certain
Loan
number of years?
forgiveness. Yeah, loan forgiveness.
You get loan forgiveness after 10 years, Billy.
Well, I don't work for the DOE
But you did.
for 5
Yeah,
years. It wasn't enough.
but now aren't you in the DOE? Oh, but you're like a third party
No,
now, right? Like a
yeah.
third party. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I work for an outpatient clinic.
Mm-hmm.
I've been explaining
Mm.
that to my parents. It's so sad, right? I called a few parents yesterday and I said, not like your kid needs help, but
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I noticed these things and blah blah blah. And then the parent was just like, no, I'm not interested. And I'm like, it's not. I mean, it's free because you have insurance, right? And
Mhm.
I'm in the school already. Like, you don't have to do anything because I'm in the school already. I'm in the
What
school.
services were you providing
Yeah.
or
Well,
what was it?
just mental health therapy. Like, I have kids
Oh,
who
Was
are
the
screaming in
stigma?
the hallway. Yeah, I
Is
I
the
have
feel
kids
like
who
stigma?
are
that's a
You
whole
screaming in the
nother
heard.
hallway.
Yeah.
episode.
Yeah,
That's
You
a
said
whole
mental health? That's it.
that's it.
Our culture would be like, nope, we don't need help. We're not crazy. Goodbye.
Yep.
That's just unfortunately the culture.
it's
I
sad
don't mean
because
to
I'm
cut
like,
I don't mean to cut you off, Billy, but yes, you are 1,000, and that wraps into this episode as
Mm-hmm.
far as why New York City is so bad, as far as not providing mental health services. But then there's a whole nother episode we can talk about the stigma of mental health and how it's viewed a whole nother freaking way.
I know, I felt bad. I'm still gonna see these kids. Just, I'm sorry. I'm gonna get fired one day, but I feel like, well, no, I did ask permission. Can I still take your child and just like, can we just have a talk? And they said
Mhm.
yes, that's fine. But it just
As long
can't.
as they're not taking their child, we need to be very careful about using the word taking their
No,
child.
I don't want no kids. I don't want any kids. I don't want any kids. So you won't find any kids hidden in my basement. But no, it was just like, if it's they just don't want it on record. They don't want any paper. They don't want any trail about their child needing any kind of service. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
okay, you know what? We won't go there. I'll just take your student.
You see that a lot.
Yeah.
As a teacher, you see it like, okay, well, we recommend this, and they're like, nope, we don't want that. So it's
Mm-hmm.
unfortunate. And it can make a world of difference if they get the services at age of 3 or 4.
Yeah.
Huge
Yes.
difference, but they
Yes.
don't want it. I feel like, okay, I've done my job. I've already told you. And then you realize it down the road that I was right. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then I move on. I can't dwell on it. I can't force them. So it's just like, okay.
It's just sad. It's sad that New York City, it's such a melting pot of backgrounds, cultures, lifestyles, everything.
Uh-huh.
Even just diversity in money. You have one of the wealthiest peoples and as well as the most poorest people,
Uh-huh.
all within a 5 borough or state area. Yet we're so freaking complicated, and I think a lot of it has to do with lack of services and lack of assistance within regulations, you know? I don't know. That's kind of my thing. To survive here, I think you have to unfortunately grow some very thick skin and just be very aware. You know, I'm
Uh-huh.
not saying you need to walk around paranoid, but you need to be attentive to your environment. I personally do not walk, like when I jog or walk, I don't walk with headphones in my ear. If I do, I have one. Never do I put both in my ear because I feel like I need to know what's going around me and I need to hear so that I am very much aware on how to respond. That's just me. And but how about you ladies? How do you guys cope and survive? Well, Nathy, while you work or, you know, walk around in the city. And then Billy.
In the city, I mean, I'm never by myself unless I'm at work, and then when I'm
Mhm.
out near my area because I work in Harlem, I'm with a group of kids, which is even, scary to be walking around with like 3 or 4 year olds in the like 1 block radius of my job. But I'm never scared. I have, like you said, I have tough skin. I grew up in the Bronx projects.
Oh, scared.
I, but I do walk
All
around.
right, J Lo, you from the block, J Lo.
I got walk
Camilo's
with hoops
scared.
today.
Camilo's scared.
But I mean, I walk around with mace. I do have mace. Hopefully, no one hears from my job and they don't take it away from me. But yeah,
I
I do
have
walk
mine right
around.
here.
Yeah. Oh, mice is smaller.
I
But yeah,
got
I
it. I
walk around
got it
with mace.
from. Sorry, because you can't get it from
Yeah.
Amazon. I got it
Yes,
from
you can.
they when I tried to order it, they wouldn't deliver it, so I got it from Groupon. So
Oh,
anybody
I
out
got, I got mine.
there,
No,
get it.
you live in Jersey. New York is different.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
I
got
couldn't
mine on
get it,
Amazon.
No,
but
no, you can
in
order to
Jersey.
Jersey. It's legal in Jersey. It's not legal in New York.
Yeah,
Oh,
so
maybe
get it
that's
through
why.
Groupon, everybody. Get the mace through Groupon.
I'll get the mace for everybody. But yeah, I mean, I'm not really scared. And when I'm in the city, I'm with Camilo, so it's not like I'm walking by myself. And then in my neighborhood, I run with 2 headphones with music. I've run at 5 a.m., 6 a.m., 9. It doesn't matter, and I haven't really ever felt scared.
Yeah, same
Uh,
here.
but to kind of tough skin, be vigilant.
Yeah.
Definitely, just How about you, Billy?
Yeah.
I'm just
Aside
thinking
from
that.
having your mace.
Well, I usually just have it in my backpack. I always have I always have a water bottle with me. I'm always like, what am I going to use? I
I
have
That's
like
punched someone.
teeth. Huh?
Did I ever tell you girls that I punched a guy
No,
no.
where?
in Far
When?
Rockaway? When I used to live in Far Rockaway,
How did
a
that
guy.
happen?
I'm gonna say it was probably like 10 years ago. Yeah, like maybe 10 years ago. I was I was coming from. It was like almost midnight, I think, because I used to do my master. I did my master's in City College, so I would travel 2 hours door to door. And I was getting off the train and I was walking home and I felt somebody following me. I felt it. I knew somebody was following me. It was a kid actually. He had a
Wow.
hoodie on and I could see him over my shoulder. He was just following me and then he tried to grab my ass or I don't even know if he did and I punched him in the face. And then when I turned around he was gone. I called the cops and everything. And the cops was like,
Wow.
"Am I going to find him on the floor? Is he like unconscious somewhere?" He was joking around with it, but I did punch somebody in the face. I don't know.
Mm-mm.
So that's what I was thinking. Like, if anything, Camilo is like, I got Nathy with me. Instead of you being like, I got Camilo with me. No, Camilo's like, I got Nathy with me.
So, Billy, you said your water bottle, ladies, and even gentlemen, a water bottle, the metal ones, if you hold them in your hand, I always make sure mine is good. I like them big metal heavy
Mhm.
ones. That to me, put it where you put your right hook. If you're a righty, if not, if you're a southpaw, put it on the left. Well,
Yo,
you knock
yeah,
somebody out. Honestly, also put your keys. I don't really have too many keys anymore, but when
He's
I lived in
between
the
your
Bronx, in
your
between your
knuckles. Yeah.
knuckles, that's another great one. I've never had to use it, but I have practice with it, so it is very good.
Punch him in the throat,
Yep.
kick
Yep.
him in the shins, kick him in the nuts.
Yeah.
There's a lot of ways. If you have
Oh, oh wait.
coffee or you open it, you throw them in their face. It's too many stuff you can do.
Our producer's losing his mind right now, saying, "Please stop giving advice. Enough, please." I think because we don't want it to come back to us. We don't
You
condone
can
violence.
definitely violence.
These are just mechanisms that I have used. I don't condone.
We're just trying to look out for our listeners. God.
Okay, I think we should stop. We're there's like 13 messages of stop.
All right, guys.
It was
Thank you
great
for
catching up with
listening.
you all, guys. Thank you for listening. Make sure you subscribe and let us know what
Follow
your thoughts on how crazy New York is, or your
your tips.
tips in
Right.
coping.
Stay safe, everybody.
Stay safe, guys.